All right, everyone. Hello, hello. Happy Friday. Going live on YouTube. So it's taking it a little bit. And now I'm live, so I'll be able to see how much the delay is. Um, so at any rate, interesting. It's like stuck. Okay. Hi, Jorge. Hello, Adam. Good morning, Ingrid. Hi, everyone. Woo, it has been a week, right? We get unlimited bangs and fine tunes in the Future Fiction Academy. Um, I know my brain has been like, okay, it's okay, Elizabeth. It's okay. Everything's fine. Excuse me. I have a little bit of allergies and stuff in the air. Maybe not allergies. I think it's just cold here in Virginia Beach. And I know this is a adage for many other places too. They say, if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes and it'll change. Yeah, it does. But we didn't really do like every 15 minutes. Well, I mean, it has changed like like in a few hours very quickly because we're right on the coast. But did anyone else get like a cold snap? We were having a very mild uh, winter going into Christmas and New Year's. And then all of a sudden, about 3 days ago, where I live, winter came in with a bitterness like somebody stole her boyfriend. So my nose, it's cold at night, it's cold in the morning. Going out to my car, there was like frost on the grass yesterday when I left and came into the office. So these are very strange things in Virginia Beach. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Cool Gamer. And hello, Ikello. I'm glad I got to see a little bit of your live yesterday. For those who don't know, Future Fiction Factory, good friends of us. Check out Ikello's channel over there. He writes with not just Rexy, but also Novel Crafter and Pseudo Write. He does a bunch of different tools and everything like that. So it's a really great channel to check out. Okay, so, thank you, Deborah, for the hair compliment. Although it's not really a great hair day today. And I have an appointment on Tuesday to get it recolored because, it's like a sin against fashion to have your roots show. Alrighty. Cool gamers here, all anonymous. Like, that's always fun. It's always fun. Oh, good morning, Becca. Good to see you. Man, I love our chats. The chats are so cool. All right, what are we going to do? The first thing I kind of wanted to do was a little bit of a soapbox. And I know, it's scary when Elizabeth gets on her soapbox, right? But no, it's actually important education here. So I want to stress that the artificial intelligence does not think. It doesn't think, y'all. It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a heart. This is starting to sound like Wizard of Oz, but the truth is that it is a prediction model. And the bigger thing that I need people to understand too is like the vector field. So let's talk about that for just a second. Now, I have done entire demonstrations of like imagine a box and all of that. We're not even going to do that today. We're going to imagine a dictionary. Everybody got the idea of a dictionary in their minds? Because we're all old enough, right, to remember the paper dictionaries. And we used to have to open up if we wanted to learn a word. Now, if you were thinking about the big Webster dictionary, mine was red growing up. I don't know if y'all had the red splotchy one that I did where there was like red splotches. It looked like blood splatter on the pages on the sides there. I don't know who came up with that design aesthetic, but we had this bright red Webster dictionary. If I can find a picture of it, I'll link to it in the description after this live. Okay, so everyone remembers this big red dictionary like in the 90s or so, 80s, with the blood splatter on the sides of the pages. You can understand that the word abstract, if you were thinking about this dictionary, abstract lives in a very specific place in the dictionary away from the word thesaurus, for example. And that on one dimension, Rex, meaning king, and also Latin, would be somewhere in the middle of those if you were looking in one dimension. But depending on where they are on the page, they actually could be in the same location, depending on how the page was laid out. Oh, deckled edges. I go with blood spatter. Thanks, Miss Swift. That's a good point. So if you could think about where words would live inside of a dictionary, a big, thick dictionary, how some of them would be closer together if you were looking at the dimension of just the pages because their first letters were closer to each other. And some would live further apart depending on where they were on the page. And then still another dimension, which one am I missing? Oh, the left and the right sides, right? Because my dictionary always had 2 columns going down it. You had to go like one column and then another column. So depending on where they were column-wise on the page, they could be different in that dimension too. That is how it is inside of the LLM. These tokens, pieces of words, have an actual vector address. Now that vector address is really, 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 really long. And what it identifies is where that token lives in relation to other tokens in the vector field. So if you're going back to that dictionary analogy, because I always call it a dictionary slot machine, you can understand that the words in the paper dictionaries did not move around, right? Like we did not throw the A words next to the Q words and jumble it all up. That is what a fine tune can do. A fine tune, which is now available in 3.516K, allows you to start moving some of those tokens ever so slightly away from their addresses based on the information in your data set. Now, why am I talking about this? Because in just a few minutes, I'm going to start writing. And you're going to see me do things of like say, oh, I want ideas for this and I want ideas for that. They're not actually ideas. What it's doing is it's doing a very complicated calculation, which is kind of what our brains do too. If I was to ask you guys for ideas that were realistic versus unrealistic, would that change the list you give me? Absolutely. And the same thing happens with LLMs. So the words that are in your prompt, the words that are in your system settings, the parameters that you set your temperature and your hyperparameters to, that literally dictates kind of the parameters or the rules, the criteria that it follows when it's making those predictions of the tokens for you. So just like you would give me a different list if I asked you for a list of, say, paranormal romance books that you think would actually sell versus paranormal romance books that would never sell in a million years, which I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. I don't know that a paranormal romance would sell very well if she was a villain and he was a villain and there was no conflict in the book. Like that just wouldn't really sell very well. Unless it was, I was actually just talking on Facebook today that that's kind of a new trend I think that's coming. How many of you guys watch Succession on HBO? And I guess there's now a new series out where everybody hates the characters. I think we're going to see a new trend coming where nobody likes the characters, but you can't stop watching. We'll call it train wreck stories. You just have to watch the train wreck. Anyway, I'm completely off topic now. My brain is a little bit like an LLM. If you move it around, it's like, wait, we're way off in this star field now. But anyway, the purpose I'm talking about this is because I want to keep reiterating. I was listening to a podcast yesterday on This Week in Startups about the New York Times lawsuit with OpenAI. And the lawyer who first posted about it on Twitter that got shared everywhere, I'm sorry, I don't want to butcher her name. I'm not trying to not name her, but her last name begins with a Z, and it's just blanking on me. But it's an episode on This Week in Startups, so you can check out that podcast. They talk about that an injunction is unlikely, and they go through all the fair use and everything like that. But it was frustrating for me to listen to this podcast because I know how LLMs work. I know that all of these tokens live just like the dictionaries live. The words in the dictionary live in a very specific location in that dictionary book. So these tokens live somewhere inside of the vector field. And it's not a database that's retrieving paragraphs and stuff like that. Now, at one point earlier this year, they thought it would be a really good idea to hook up ChatGPT to the internet. And I think that kind of has muddied the waters in terms of what people understand large language models can do. Large language models are literally just vector fields of tokens. And when you prompt it, that prompt goes through the query, it picks the tokens, statistically selecting the next token and then the next token and then the next token, and that all goes to the transformer, and that's what gets you your response. If you move your temperature setting up, you will get absolute gibberish. If you move your temperature setting down, you'll get nothing but repetition, where it almost is like Polly want a cracker from a parrot. It'll, like whatever your prompt is, it'll just repeat back to you your prompt. So Apologies, but I know many of you are experts in the chat here and all of that, but how many of you fall for, just like I do, you think it's thinking? It feels like it's thinking. It feels like it can come up with some really good ideas. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's us. It's us prompting it. It's us putting that layer in there. And then it's us reading those responses. And this is the most important part, going, no, not that one. Let's move it even further. So yesterday when I was working, you guys got to see that live and in action where the LLM came up with the idea of, what was it? There was going to be like a musical, some kind of musical joke. And I was like, no, he likes a particular piece of Beethoven and Elizabeth knows Beethoven and everything like that. So I love writing with artificial intelligence because it moves me to that next idea a lot faster than if I was working on by myself. So, okay. Thank you all for being kind enough to listen to my rant and my blood spatter dictionary metaphors. But it's always a good reminder. It's almost like when you come in for work with the AI, you almost have to go like, okay, I've got to remind myself this thing cannot think. It's almost like you're going in to do battle with a beast and you're like reminding yourself of like what the rules are, like with gremlins, don't get them wet. Don't feed them after midnight. The artificial intelligence does not think. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen and let's go play with some LLMs. Let's go play with some dictionary slot machines. All right, so I'm going to include myself on here. I know yesterday I was a little bit remiss. I did not share any links or anything on the January 4th write-a-thon. This is our first week doing these. I think in the future, we're going to just have one write-a-thon page for the entire week. That'll make it easier for me so that I can build stuff up as it goes. But I didn't know that until I actually did a week. Okay, so let me go ahead and get to the actual website on my screen. I don't know why Teachable is open. I did not open Teachable. Okay. Oh, I think because I was trying to open up Rexy and I needed to sign in. That's what it was. Log in. Cool. Everything's going. So I watch all my check marks go. And then we were on this. So we were looking at this act outline from The Gentleman Is Mine yesterday. And looking at eavesdropping at Netherfield. So I had my Act 1 information. I had my Act 2, Act 3, and Act 4. And then the next thing that I did is I started to do an outline by scenes. So I have scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I really think that this is, if I think of this as being Act 1 and Act 2, 10 scenes, and then I do another 10 to 15 scenes for Act 3, 4, and 5, I should be okay to be at novel length. Now, I'm actually going to go ahead and work with this particular piece here. I'm going to go with, this is kind of my backbone document that I'm going to start building out my other components from. Because it's really my goal here to get the scene briefs going and everything like that. So forgive me today, Elizabeth is kind of like taking the gloves off and we're just going to generate, okay? So it might be a little bit fast. Feel free to ask questions in the chat or just work alongside me. I know a lot of you guys use this time that I'm just playing in the background because y'all like to work like you're not alone. Same thing for me. I do the same thing. So we have the sick room at the Netherfield where Jane is convalescing. I'm going to let them know that this is beginning November 1811. I always like to say what time of day, what time period my stuff is because that helps the LLM. Again, it's all about those parameters and that information for it to choose the right token that's next. So characters, Elizabeth Bennet, Jane Bennet, Caroline Bingley, Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth visits Jane. She overhears Caroline mocking her. I don't think that's going to be Mr. Darcy. It's going to be Mrs. Hurst. So it's going to be, she overhears Caroline mocking. So, and again, pronouns. Pronouns are bad pronouns with the LLM because it's a dictionary slot machine. Which she are we talking about? We've got Elizabeth, Jane, and Caroline all in this scene. So whenever possible, I replace my pronouns, especially if the LLM is going to be reading this for information to extract. I know it's very annoying and pedantic to do this, but if you change out your pronouns as much as possible with the character names, you're going to get a better result. Let me know in the chat if you have found the same thing. So Elizabeth over here is Caroline mocking her to her sister, Mrs. Hurst. Caroline specifically talks about how Mr. Darcy admitted that he thinks Miss Elizabeth has fine eyes, and Caroline scoffs as though these, what's the word? Unfashionable, non-fashionable, these country chits, that was actually a offensive word, could turn the head of a sophisticated gentleman. Like Mr. Darcy. Now this is funny because Mr. Darcy is actually practically a farmer. I mean, he's not a farmer, but I mean, he lives in the country. He likes Pemberley. He's a country gentleman. He hates town. At least that's the characterization that most people portray him as. So Elizabeth, angry but determined, decides to beat Caroline at her own game and win Mr. Darcy's. Oh, so I need to add here that Mrs. Hurst laughs and encourages Caroline in her pursuit of their brother's friend. Yeah, that's good. All good. And Elizabeth's, kind of like, it's a little character questioning, and she's sitting there eavesdropping. Elizabeth Bennet, Mr. Darcy, all that, Caroline Bingley, the drawing room. Changes about music, and Caroline doesn't know a piece of Beethoven that Mr. Darcy likes. Okay. So this goes actually in the plot, not there. Okay. Mr. Bingley and Jane Bennet. Okay. Elizabeth asks Mr. Darcy to play chess. Nope. We're not going to do that. So we're going to change this to Caroline opens the pianoforte and sets her sister to play for them. But okay, I got to think about this because Miss Jane would not be able to dance. And so prompting Mr. Bingley to ask to play a reel for them. Prompting Mr. Bingley to ask Elizabeth to dance since Jane is still unwell. And Jane is encouraging of this. Caroline goads Mr. Darcy into dancing, but he points out it would be rude with Jane's condition, Miss Bennet's condition. Jane, never one to spoil anyone's fun, suggests that Mr. Bingley ask Elizabeth to dance. Mr. Darcy and Caroline dance along with Mr. Bingley and Elizabeth. At the end of the dance, Mr. Darcy asks for a specific piece by Beethoven. So Beethoven had country dances. I played piano for 8 years, but I don't want one of his country dances. Moonlight Sonata I don't think would work because I think it was written later. Year written. Oh, 1801. Okay, so no, that would work. I think that would be cool because you wouldn't dance to Moonlight Sonata. It's a really pretty piece of music, but nobody would dance to it. And I don't think they would call it the Moonlight Sonata back then, because now it is, but it's actually called this, the Sonata Quasi un Fantasia. I do not speak Italian. And neither Mrs. Hurst nor Caroline know the piece. Jane, oh, I love Jane in this scene. Jane pipes up that Elizabeth knows it, and Elizabeth explains it has been some time since she has practiced it. She plays the piece, and at the end, Mr. Darcy is intrigued, asking how she knows it. And Elizabeth explains that their uncle in London routinely buys the girls sheet music, as his children are still very young. And her sister Mary needed help with the fingering. Okay, perfect. I love it. All right, dining room, Caroline, Bingley, all of them, they're doing the love sonnets. So, I mean, Caroline's still trying to one-up everybody. So this is like perfect. This is so, so perfect. The gardens at Netherfield. I don't know that this is going to be the gardens. I think that this is going to be evening in the, this is going to be evening in the library. Yeah, Mr. Darcy, Mr. Bingley discuss their growing affection for Bingley is the instigator of this conversation, anxious to talk about his angel. Ugh, gag me, right? He finds Elizabeth intriguing. But I think, but warns Bingley. Oh dear. Okay, sneeze went away. I thought I had to sneeze, but it went away. Let me check the chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Hi, Jude. Hi, Harper. Oh, good. What projects are you all working on? Let me know in the chat. I know you guys are all working on projects and things like that, so I'm always curious. All right, we are 12 minutes in, I think. Yeah, 23 minutes in. Just kidding. Okay, so he warns Bingley is clearly smitten with Jane. Warns Bingley that ladies in the country take potential suitors very seriously. Darcy warns Bingley that he must not show such favor of Miss Bennet's company unless he has very serious intentions. Bingley counters, is that why you barely speak to Miss Elizabeth? Darcy is discontented. I don't know what the word is. Darcy is uncomfortable about this and ponders his feelings as he goes to bed that night, tormented by a dream where Elizabeth Bennet is very clearly his wife. Yay! I do write romances. I write for the readers. I know it's not very realistic or whatever, but that's okay. I sell fantasy. That's what I do. So the drawing room the next morning. Yes. So this is where I love my subconscious. So it's leading right into where he's tormented by a dream, and so it's leading onto that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if the LLM can help me with what I'm trying to do right next. So I have these 10 scenes. So I have already given very clear character motivation in scenes 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what I'm going to ask it to do is to try to rewrite scenes 5, 6, and 7, and 8 through 10 to really punch up the character motivations for this particular Act 1 and Act 2. Let's see if it's able to figure that out, shall we? So I can go ahead and use Rexy. I'm in here. That way my stuff is already saved to my document. So let's go to Jack Novella, load the project. So everything's there. Oh, by the way, I found out that WordBanger does log things. So if you come to your projects and you turn on auto log to Notion, WordBanger does also log to Notion. So that way you can get your settings and everything like that, and you don't have to keep track of them. Very, very handy. Okay, so what do I want to do? Let's hop into, I guess I could use the prompter. Let's use the prompter. So the prompter has basically a clear system prompt and a user prompt. I'm going to use OpenAI. I'm going to use the smart one. I'm going to use OpenGPT-4 because I don't have a very big prompt or anything like that. And the maximum length that GPT-4 can write is 4096. So we'll pop that in there. All right. So I'm going to say you specialize. This is very basic prompting, everyone. This is just prompting a persona. You specialize in analyzing character motivations in novel outlines and devising clever plot elements to emphasize the character's goals and behaviors. In Act 1 and Act 2 of this book, here are the motivations and goals of each character. Okay. So I'm going to have Elizabeth Bennet there to take care of her sister, Jane Bennet. You know what? I am feeling very lazy. I'm not even feeling like typing. Let me turn on voice chat because this will be very fast. Let's try that. General. Where is it? It is in accessibility. I love voice chat. Voice chat is the best. Voice control, that's what I want. Turn that on. Okay. Where did the little microphone thing go? Where? Are you dictating what I say? No, we should have to turn that on. Let me see here. Usually, oh, it is. Okay. Elizabeth has no desire for Mr. Darcy, comma, at least she tells herself she has no real desire for Mr. Darcy, comma, because she still believes him to be a proud and rude gentleman that insulted her in the previous month at the Meryton Assembly. Jane Bennet, colon. Jane is unwell and had to stay at Netherfield Park for 3 days. Period. At the beginning of the story, she is on the mend and beginning to rejoin the regular house party in the dining room and drawing room. Period. Jane is in love with Mr. Bingley, comma, but shy and very sweet. Period. Caroline Bingley is a jealous woman, spoiled, who believes her brother's best friend, Mr. Darcy, will make an offer of marriage for her eventually. Period. She plays as the mistress of the house for her unmarried brother, Mr. Bingley, even though Caroline is unmarried. The eldest sister of Caroline Bingley and Mr. Bingley, significantly older, as she shares a different mother than the younger two. Period. She is married to Mr. Hurst, and anxious to leave Hertfordshire to return to London for the Christmas season, and only came to make sure that Caroline Bingley was properly chaperoned. Period. Mr. Darcy, In this story, he fights less against his feelings for Elizabeth Bennet, and allows himself to fully imagine marrying a woman he finds both intelligent and absolutely beautiful. Period. He does struggle somewhat with societal expectations on who he would choose to be a spouse, but the additional time in Miss Elizabeth's company makes Mr. Darcy convinced that she would be able to join his social sphere with no issue. Mr. Bingley is in love with Jane Bennet, but he is still very young by society standards to take a wife. Period. He leans a great deal on his friend, Mr. Darcy, for advice on running the estate that he is leasing, Netherfield Park, and has routinely fallen in love with many young women in London, only to realize he was not serious about them. Period. Mr. Bingley struggles because he would like to be rid of his bachelorhood and finds Jane Bennet absolutely captivating. Okay. I know, very weird that I dictated that, and it wasn't super, super fast, but it got the words done. And now I just have to clean up where it misspelled things. I think you put a double T sometimes in different places, or maybe I fixed that. All right. Oh, Mr. Bingley. There it is. I knew it was a double T somewhere. All right, and I'm going to copy this just so that I have it. And bring it into here because it's like the start of my character motivations in Act 1 and Act 2, so that I can always expand that out some. Act 1 and Act 2. In Notion, you can always highlight something and turn it into a page. Oh, yeah, you highlight it and then you click the 6 domino dots, and then you can click turn it into a page. And then once I click on that, I can go ahead and paste that in. So I have that information, which, I mean, shocking and surprising. That's 400 words that I quickly did about the different characters in this Act 1 and Act 2. And we'll leave Mr. Hurst alone because Mr. Hurst was basically furniture in the original. All right, I'm going to check the chat, see if anybody shared like what kinds of projects they're working on. All right. It is typed suicidal expectations. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Now that would be a different story entirely. Not that suicide is funny. It's not. He does struggle somewhat with society's expectations on who he would choose to be a spouse. Choose as his spouse. But the additional time in Miss Elizabeth's company makes Mr. Darcy convinced that she would be able to join his social sphere with no issue. Okay, so we've got our character motivations here, and now I need to copy and paste this back in since I've made changes and fixed it. I do dictate still to this day because typing, I'm noticing myself that I'm having eye issues from every day being in front of the computer. I'm having neck issues again. These are things that I deal with. Not everybody does, but one of the reasons I started dictating originally was because of pain. So, okay, please read, oopsies. Please read this outline so far. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in acts, this one, and we're going to go ahead and go with scene 1 through 4. Okay. So we have that so much. Now, rewrite again. I'm getting away from rewrite. Here's the thing. I think when we say rewrite, it thinks it needs to do it completely all over again, and I don't want to do that. I want to write it again, adding or changing. So write the following scenes again, adding or changing plot elements to better match the tone and style of scenes 1 through 4, the character motivations. Now, here's what I'm going to do because I'm calling back out to it. I'm going to go ahead and put that in a Tupperware container. That helps the LLM to go back and go, oh, what does she mean by character motivations? Because if I don't, it could hallucinate and think that it needs to come up with the character motivations, and that is not the case. So I'm going to come down here and put the character motivations because that'll be in the system prompt. Seeing the style of character 1 through 4, the character motivations, adding and changing to better match the tone and style of scenes 1 through 4, and to make the plot exciting for readers. Okay, so I have this entire prompt. If I want to save the prompt to my Notion, and I do, this is rewriting the, oh, I didn't put in, I didn't put in the rest of the scenes here. So the following scenes, 5 through 10, usually I have these prompts all ready to go, but that's okay. And this is a nice prompt. This is a nice structured prompt too. That's what I like to save my prompts. Rewriting the later scenes. Okay, so as I keep this prompt and I click construct prompt only, it will go ahead and just save it right to my Notion page. So everything is there and it is now on my Notion page. It always gives me a link at the bottom there. So if I click on that link, here it is, the entire prompt. So I have it there. And I can always check it to see how many, 1,200 words, GPT-4 can handle that just fine. So let's go ahead and run GPT-4 and see what it does. But now I would be able to reuse that prompt over and over and over again by copying and pasting it if I wanted to, or I could save it into my prompt library if I broke it down. So this is really great. They're exchanging barbed remarks. So this is good for me because I want them to have something that they would argue about. What would they argue about? That's a good question. Sick room at Netherfield, Elizabeth Bennet. Jane is conscious of the increasing interest of Mr. Bingley. Okay, there we go. A sudden storm exacerbates Jane's condition, warranting an extended stay. Manage escalating tension as she fends off Caroline's passive-aggressive remarks. Typical parlor entertainments like card games and recitations fail to mask the simmering discomfort, much to Caroline's chagrin. Okay, not bad. Let me go over to the auto rate on this. So this will definitely be faster for me to make changes. So one of the things that I like to do if I've got to make changes back and forth, why I like Notion so much, is let me go ahead and throw columns in here. So I'm going to have 2 columns. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in the change. But I'm also going to grab this information right here. And I'm going to throw that into the first column. And what that'll allow me to do is see what the original was on this side. And then I can make changes on that side. So I need something here that would say like why they would argue with each other. Maybe politics of the day of something of some sort. Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth find themselves unexpectedly alone in the drawing room. They exchange barbed remarks. How about this? The miscommunication comes as Mr. Darcy hints that Mr. Bingley will not be purchasing Netherfield Park. And Elizabeth remarks on how important it is for a community to have the larger homes occupied. Okay. Mr. Darcy playfully debates such. I don't know that he would. Okay, I'm trying to think about this. They need to have a miscommunication. So I'm just gonna leave this open, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to put in Notions here. Come up with something a man, a gentleman, and lady might argue about in 1811 that is not entirely impolite, but slightly challenges social norms. So the reason I'm doing that is because the whole purpose of this is I'm just going to throw this in and get some scene briefs. And so if that instruction is in there, then the scene brief will come up with something and I can validate that. I'm trying to do too much detail here, and that's my problem. I really just need to get the 10,000 foot level. So this is good. Indirectly questions about our unusual behavior, half-heartedly dismisses their observations while secretly ruminating on what Jane points out. Elizabeth spies Mr. Darcy out the window, mounting his horse. So there we go. So she can go admire his bum. Okay, a sudden storm. Gets her sister to promise that in the morning they will return to Longbourn. Jane reluctantly agrees. Okay, so there we go. Basically, this is the turning point here where Elizabeth is like, Mr. Darcy, I pursued him and now I've got him, and this was a mistake. The Netherfield estate, all of this, a sudden storm exacerbates, no. A southern storm in the morning warrants an extended stay. Dun, dun, dun. Elizabeth struggles to manage escalating tension as she fends off Caroline's passive aggressive. I actually think this needs to be scene 8. I think I need another scene here. I think I'm going to. So you know what? Here's what we're going to do. Because I'm happy with everything up to this point, which is scene 6, I'm going to grab this, move all that down, put that there. So one thing that I don't usually do, or I don't usually show, is I don't usually I don't usually require myself to, I don't allow myself to run just a partial book. I usually am like, I have to have the whole thing figured out. Let's not do that today. Let's go ahead and see if we can't get these 5 scenes written. These 5 scenes written with, decent amounts. Because I think that I'm going to do better if I work in smaller chunks. So I don't have so much information at one time that I have, I get overwhelmed. If I've got 36 scenes to, edit, I don't want to do that. What I'm doing right now is I'm just grabbing the Tupperware containers. I'm just putting all the scenes into closing and opening brackets. And I mean, really, is it really a bad day of work if in 2 to 3 hours you get 6 scenes drafted? I don't think so. Okay, so I have this information and now I need to extract all of the elements or the components that I need. So I grabbed all of that. My Notion's pre-writing here. We have the story premise, which was supposed to be this. This is not what we're doing. So we will move to auto write page. Yeah, we're not going to do that. And we will duplicate you. Okay. So looking at my handy dandy cheat sheet that I always have, my scene list should be N7. So I'm going to paste in my scene list, which is right there. So scene 1, scene 2, all that jazz. We have up through 6 scenes right now. N1 is always genre. So this is a variation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice fan fiction written for modern readers, but takes place in 1811. Okay. We'll change fan fiction. I guess it wants it to be a space. Now, this is just telling the AI what my genre is for different prompts when it's coming up with things. N2 is supposed to be my characters. I don't have that yet. Setting, I don't have that yet. Story world, writing style, none of that stuff. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to come over to Rexy and I'm going to create those things from my scene list that I have already. Basically, it's effectively ideas. So I'm going to come over to my library and we have these prompts for, like, say, character development. And I actually want to get a list of characters. And I don't think we have a prompt specifically for that. So I am actually going to just create one of those prompts at some point. But so I'll just come over to prompter. Let's see here. You read a scene list and extract the information an author asks for. It's good enough. Read this scene list for the first act of a novel. And I'll put the scene list in. Please give me a detailed list of the characters, including side characters, such as servants, needed to write these scenes with vivid details. Sorry, I knew it. I knew I had to sneeze. Vivid details and rich dialogue. Okay, other thing I needed, all the characters. For all major characters, give full explanations of their story, goal, and motivations. sample dialogue, knowing this is a romance, and eventually Mr. Darcy will marry Elizabeth and Mr. Bingley will marry Jane. So I'm just telling it a little bit so it doesn't try to make it a drama, you know. So I have this prompt. I like to save my prompts. So this is get a character list. Oopsies. Right here. Get a character list. Construct the prompt. We have it. And I'll go ahead and process GPT-4. Okay. What happened? Did I pick the wrong one? Update. Interesting. I can't get the button there. Genre and story world information. I don't know what's going on here. I think I pressed a button. I copied that just in case, yeah. Although if Joseph just sent something to Rexy, I hope not. Okay, so there's my user prompt. I don't have my system prompt anymore. Okay, you read a scene list and perform the action an author asks of you. There we go. I will change it to GPT-4. We're all good. 4096, update, and process so I can get that detailed character list now. And there it goes. All right. Let me check the chat. See everyone's good. Thank you for the bless you. Sorry about that. Okay. The new chat feature in Rexy, it is definitely new. But you know what? It's about to get updated, like seriously updated. I'm calling it bubble chat. We are working on functionality behind the scenes to make that chat even more robust. For example, what's the number one thing y'all hate about chat? Let me know in the comments things that aggravate you about when you're working with chat. And then I'll tell you mine. I'll explain to you what some of the things we're working on so it doesn't do that. All right, so Mr. Darcy, his own stubbornness. Unexpectedly captivating. All right, I'm going to need to put some rules here. The Bennet uncle in London. Oh, wow, it picked that up, which is Uncle Gardner. Okay. So this is fine. And I don't have to copy and paste that because it's already on my auto write thing. So, where are you? Why are you not on my auto write? Did you not finish? You did not auto write. Oh, because I restarted. Dagnabbit. Okay. And I don't have a project loaded. That was my bad. You know what? I'm just going to run it again because I'm that lazy. No. There's a couple of things that I'm going to add on to it. Now that I saw that what the reaction was, I'm going to say in here for the character rules, or the characterization, I'm going to say include rules of custom of the time, such as Miss Bennet is Jane and Elizabeth Bennet is addressed as Miss Elizabeth unless her sister is not in the room. Actually, for reading purposes, I usually just keep it that way. She's just Miss Elizabeth. Process. The only reason somebody would call her Miss Bennet if they didn't know her sister is if they were introduced to her and they didn't know she had an older sister, which they always do. So they would always call her Miss Elizabeth. Otherwise, it would get very confusing. Miss Bennet, no, Miss Bennet, Miss Bennet, Miss Bennet. There's actually a funny joke in the 2005 movie where it was like Mrs. Bennet with Miss Bennet and Miss Bennet and Miss Bennet. And then Caroline Bingley's character goes, oh, goodness, are we to entertain all the Bennets in the county? It's pretty funny. All right, let me check the chat here. A lack of memory, losing context. Yeah, well, I can't change those, guys. But Although our chat, you will be able to bring in your Notion slots and everything like that. So you can manage, you will be able to purposefully manage the memory of the chat at all times. So the things I hate about working with chat is how many of you copy and paste a chat and then you have to clean it up? Anyone? I hate that. I hate copying and pasting chat. And then like Dion says, cannot edit response. So we're going to be able to edit responses. We're going to be able to grab chats and say, okay, start a new chat. We're going to be able to kind of like play with the context window a lot, so that when you run out of context, you can start off where you were a lot easier rather than having to start a new chat. So there's going to be some really cool things. How does one navigate the tender path of love without causing offense or raising false hope? Your appearance of indifference speaks volumes. Are you aware that your words have the tenacity of a well-aimed arrow? Ooh, I love that. That's a good one. Oh, Lizzie, what if my sentiments for Mr. Bingley are more than what is deemed proper? I fear he may feel obligated. Oh, Jane. Mr. Darcy, a gentleman would do well to remember that true merit lies not in lineage or wealth, but in the character of an individual. Okay, cool, Elizabeth Bennet. I like it. I want Caroline to be particularly nasty. Let's see. Can you imagine Mr. Darcy entranced by the rustic charms of a country maiden? Humorous, indeed. Indeed, Caroline. Let's reassure Mr. Darcy that he must require a lady of sophistication. Okay, cool. I like it. Now it is written to my auto write. And we have it right here. So I'm actually going to rename this. And I'm going to call this Characters Act 1. I know my characters list is very short. I'm going to throw it into the pre-writing. And since characters is supposed to be N2, I will go ahead and delete my N2 and drag this up because it goes there. The way our Notion slots work is whatever order they're in, that's the order that they're numbered in. So if you're prompting in Blackjack, say N2, it just needs to be the second one on your Notions page. That is your Notions page of all the information about the story you wanted to know. This has a lot of flexibility. You can literally prompt anything you want. We don't prescribe ticky-tacky little boxes of like, you only get these boxes. Like, for example, my books, I don't ever really need to put like a religion information in necessarily, but there are books, particularly fantasy and stuff like that, that you might have a document that is nothing but religion. And you need the large language model to know the religion of the religions in your story world. This is Scene Outline, Act 1 and 2. Okay. Just so I can see my end pages. Also, Rexy doesn't read these. The words after the N1s and stuff, those are all for the humans. The only thing Rexy cares about is what arrangement are they in. For setting, I'm going to put right here, because we're all in Netherfield. I'm going to actually try using why don't we use the Notion AI for a second? Let's see if that'll work. So press space for AI, so I've got it. I need setting descriptions for a Regency estate that would be Netherfield Park in 1811. I need descriptions of a guest room for a sick Jane Bennet, a drawing room with a piano forte, the library, dining room, and halls. All right, so now it's just going to go ahead and write me those settings. Listen, I love AI. It's really, really a handy tool. Because now I can look at these and decide what I want. Do I want marble floors? Sure. Paintings and family portraits grace the walls. Perfect. And now I can add here that Netherfield Hall was originally built by the Amherst family from the war spoils of Captain Bartholomew. Basically, he was a pirate. Bartholomew Amherst in the mid 1700s. So that way I'm giving it some information to like pepper when I say read these descriptions, and it can throw some portraits of these Amherst family people on the wall or whatever. Potted plants and ornate mirrors reflecting no potted plants because this is a leased estate. So no one lives there regularly. With ornate mirrors, as guests walk through the halls, no lush gardens. Slightly wild gardens through the windows, as it is early, or it is late autumn, and Netherfield Hall, Netherfield, oh, it's Park, not Hall. Gosh, Elizabeth. Netherfield Park is a leased estate and slightly neglected. Now, what I could easily do is ask the LLM to rewrite all of these and add in slight elements to signal that it's a leased estate and that the family doesn't live there. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do that. We'll grab all of this, ask the AI, rewrite these to add in subtle hints that the Amherst family no longer lives there full time, and it is a leased estate. Boop, and now it's doing that. Okay. Sure, replace it. And then I'll start from there. The library should be sparse. Shelves. So lined with floor-to-ceiling shelves, only half are filled with an extensive collection of books. Okay. Antique. By the lack of intellectual. So instead of half, only a few are filled. So there we go. So the AI can only get you so far. The room, a small table. The room is well stocked. Remnants. Books and magazines. No, it's 1811. Give me a break here. Magazines. Elegantly furnished with a comfortable bed. I'm going to say draped, not in luxurious fabrics. Why don't we have it be in, well, it's fine. We'll leave it as it is. Touch of elegance. The drawing room. Dust can be found. A slight dust layer. The newly instituted staff of maids missed since the room has been vacant for a while. There we go. All right, drawing room, the centerpiece of the room, its keys, slightly out of tune. All right. Perfect. We already handled the library, the dining room. I don't know that the dining room would be very rare. Crystal chandeliers, remnants of the refined tastes. I don't know. I'm going to put simple crystal. Utilitarian. Hang from the ceiling. Okay. China were once served in the room. Yeah, that's fine. I wonder if there would be, how about slight discoloration? Mars, the walls, where rich tapestries once hung. But the ceiling boasts intricate moldings. Okay, there we go. I've got it all. So setting, all done. We are jamming. Okay. Is this helpful for anyone, seeing how I am just like using I'm working with the AI. This is the big thing that I think is a misnomer, that people think that you're just going to spit it out and you're not going to make any changes. There was nothing wrong with what the AI came up with, but you guys can see how I have added pieces of my own creativity to it, coming up with this family who once owned it. So the people who had once owned it and everything like that. So it's important to add these different elements that the LLM's not going to come up with. So I've got genre and I've got characters and I've got setting. I need to do a writing style. So the best thing to do is have it to analyze my human writing, but I'm just going to ask the AI to come up with a style. Write out a writing style guide for a novel of Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, variation, fan fiction that's for modern readers, but takes place in 1811. So specifically, we want no stilted language and higher proportions of dialogue. All right. Perfect. Done. And now I just change it. All right. Use modern language and idioms to make the story accessible to modern readers. No. We're going to say sparingly use formal or archaic language. Incorporate Regency slang and phrases from classic British literature to make the story accessible to modern readers. Okay. Emphasize, this is British literature, 1750 and prior. The reason why I go so further back instead of like, oh, well, it takes place in 1811, so 1806 is fine. Remember that their distribution was not the same as our distribution now. So, well, some people like Mr. Darcy would know of a book possibly written in 1806, even though it's 1811, 5-year difference. It may not necessarily be like widespread known, but like the classics like Chaucer and Shakespeare and things like that would have been understood by anyone of the higher classes that was educated. So excluding Caroline Bingley, who did not care about her studies, or at least that's what I always imagine. Emphasize dialogue, use dialogue, ensure the dialogue. Okay. But lightly. Try to have the characters speak more formal than today's readers, but not precisely 1811, but not precisely the same formality of literature from 1811. Okay. Witty and clever exchanges, yes. Characters routinely use subtext and sarcasm in exchanges. People drink wine and may be in their cups from time to time, aka drunk. Research and accurately depict the social norms, pay attention to historical details, use historical events. Okay. Characterization, develop plot and conflict. Higher conflict than literature of the time. Introduce conflicts and obstacles that are relevant to both modern. Balance romance, drama, and societal commentary while maintaining. Okay, so there we go. Perfect. I just got the writing style. I'm happy with it. I'm actually going to take out these numbers though. Numbers do not do well with Rexy. And then I need everything in Tupperware containers. So we're going to go ahead and put this in writing style and then close the Tupperware container. I think I need to do that with settings too. I did not do that. I was a bad girl. Bad human. All right, so setting, we're going to put here setting information. All right, so I have all of that. I don't have story world. Writing style is in number 5, so this is writing style. Cool. I don't need the outline. I just got the story world, genre, characters. Okay, I'm good enough. It's okay that they're empty. We're going to start running some scene briefs. And that's cool because we're right at an hour and 15 minutes. Let me check the chat. All righty. Cool beans. All right, so I think we're ready. We've been working on this for about 2.5 hours now. 2.5 hours because I worked on it for about an hour yesterday. So if I was to add all of that up, if we get to by 2 p.m. done, that would be 6 scenes drafted in 3 hours. That's 2 scenes per hour. Not very fast, but I had to kind of come up with the entire story to go with it. So it's slower when you start, but it gets faster as you go. Okay. So I have this. I need to get my blackjacks that I need. So the specific blackjacks that I need are actually in generic sequence novella and this. So I really need scene briefs 1 through 10. I actually need all of these. So I'm going to duplicate. And then I'm going to move it to week 1, draft novella, duplicate. Got to wait on Notion. Cool. Move it to draft novella. And then the last one, obviously 21 through 30. Once I get to those scenes. So I will duplicate that as well. I will most likely end up with 30 scenes on this. And we're also going to need scene writing too. I probably should have just grabbed that one for today because I'm not going to do 11 and 21 today. Man, if you did 6 scenes a day, especially if you had the story, 2 to 3 hours, we'll duplicate that one. Usually my novels are about 30 to 35. So if we went to 36, that's six days. Yeah, I think every 2 weeks I could possibly get a book out. Move to, which I mean is much better than my current publication rate. So draft novella. So we're all here. I don't care that there's a 1 after them. It's fine. I'm going to just move them up here. They have to be above the line into that first column. And that way all my blackjacks are there. Now, what do these blackjacks look like? Okay. Let's take a look. I like Bing View. Read the following story information for the purposes of planning a writing brief for scene 1. Story information, N1, N2, N3, N4, N5, N6, and N7. If I was smart, I would have N6 in there too, but I don't. I have to change this at some point. Now, it's going to write a detailed scene 1 writing brief. I only have for 6 bangs or 6 scenes the information from the outline, which is N7, the scene outline, which is in there. So these are basically sequences of prompts that can run over and over and over again. This is the money aspect of Rexy. This is what everybody is like, oh my gosh. I'm going to fix this because they're out of order, but it doesn't matter because it still brings it in the same order. 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B, 5A, 5B. And then let me scroll down. Yeah, this is what I thought. 6A, 6B. So we just want to put them in this right order. They are in the right order by the name because the way it pulls in, it's just like Notion pages are pulled in by what order they're in. Your blackjacks are brought in based off of the alphabetical order of the actual prompts here, the naming convention here inside of the database. So you could call this scene 1, scene 1, scene 2, scene 2, etc. Each one, like 1A, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, those all relate to when you're in the word banger. And the new word banger is different, but each of your instas has a top and a bottom, and then we call this a bang. So the instructions have 2 parts, but the bang is the one whole thing. I know that's a little confusing, but we came up with this terminology as we were doing it. And it came out from bang because of these were originally for not safe for work models. So in my project, I need to go ahead. The old way you would load it down here, but it's not that way anymore. You go to your elements page. For my end slots, I need to bring in my end slots, which is it's on my auto write page. That's where I keep those. So I have my Notions 21 pre-writing. So I'll bring that in and I will paste that right there. Boop. Press enter to apply. And then you just have to click load. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring in all of the elements. Oh, and I already know it's messed up. I know this one doesn't have the genre. Yeah, I knew it didn't have the genre Tupperware box. I always like to put everything in Tupperware boxes on the actual Notion page so that when it pulls it into Rexy, it always has context. Same thing for my character list. My character list is all worked as well. So let's fix that as well. There should not be any numbers. And really, I should put these in Tupperware containers as well if I want it to be nice and clear. And I'm actually going to ask the AI right here. What their role is, like Agnes, Forsyth, Cook. So it's just making a quick list. Add more. Oh yeah, that's done. And then we'll add some more. Add more. No, stop. Escape, stop, delete. Add more servants. Okay, stop. All right, done. We're going to delete all of this. But it did add me some more. Sarah Davies, chambermaid, and James Patterson. Let's change him. Let's change it to James Patrick is the coachman. Okay. So we'll take that out. No, there's no Netherfield inhabitants. So let's not hallucinate that. I need more footmen. So we'll do that and we'll do John. We need a B last name. John Braithwaite. Footman. Okay. Mr. Higgins. Mrs. Jenkins. Okay, that's fine. I don't think Netherfield had a... Let's see. Did Netherfield Park have any named servants in Pride and Prejudice? Sometimes there are. Mr. and Mrs. Hill, and housemaids Polly and Sarah. I don't think there's any servants in Netherfield Park. Usually I use like Mrs. Nichols and things like that, but that's okay. So my characters are good. And then I will put this into Tupperware container. And then what I also like to do is put each character in a Tupperware container. So it looks like this. Characters. I eventually plan to train a 16K to kind of like do this for me, the formatting for me. But I just haven't gotten around to doing that yet. All right, so servants, and we'll put here servants. It'd be helpful if I could actually write and type. Boop. Okay, do I want to do, all right. Elizabeth Bennet. Tupperware containers matter, but it's tedious. I get so frustrated. I'm not going to lie. Oopsies. And go to the end, paste it in again to change it to Jane. Jane. So I have her. Mr. Darcy. It's okay to have a period in there. These are all just, this is an actual code. It's literally an array, and we're defining it by putting it into square brackets. For some reason, someone from Petersburg is calling me. I don't know anyone in Petersburg, so they can leave a message. Anyone else have an Apple Watch and it just makes you feel like Dick Tracy? I always feel kind of, when I was a kid, I always wanted that technology. And then you get it and you're like, this is not nearly as fun. This is really kind of expectations and annoying. All right, there is Caroline Bingley. And finally, Mrs. Hurst. Boop. Oh, we should put a space there. All righty. And I'll check the chat before I run this stuff. So if there's any questions about what I'm about to do. Nope. Okay, good. We're ready to rock and roll. All right. So I've appropriately Tupperware containered everything. Tupperware containers matter. So everything is in square brackets so that it has a very clear thing. I didn't do these, but I think it's okay. I think it's going to be able to pull it just fine. So basically, it's going to be able to read the information that's in these 5 documents for me, and it's going to extract out information for a scene brief. This is by far, I think, one of the best methodologies for writing with artificial intelligence for many reasons. Number 1, let me go back to me. Okay, so this methodology that I'm about to do, it is going to make an individual document for each scene. That document will be about 400 to 700 words. The artificial intelligence is going to write these documents. So anyone who's like, why would you bother to write 700 words in order when you could just write the scene? I hear you. These documents serve really well for people. You could just use them to write the scene yourself. For instance, if I had my scene briefs all written out and I'd gone through and I validated them and said, okay, I agree with this, I don't agree with that, I want this changed, kind of like what I was doing with the outline. Then I could take those sheets and I could literally just dictate the scene if I really wanted to. There's lots of authors out there who like to dictate. Another thing that this is helpful for is if you decided to write the scene yourself, you could use these scene briefs as a check for your editing purposes. If you have the artificial intelligence write the scenes, which is what I'm going to do, you can use the scene briefs as a way of validating the information. My dream is to be able to get to the point where I have the artificial intelligence do quite a bit of these steps. And then at the very end, the document that I have, the manuscript that I have, it's kind of like a slush pile situation. I already have like different adversarial agents and stuff who have checked it against this and that and made plans on what to fix and all of that. And that way, when I read through it, it only needs less than 10 minutes of editing on each scene. That's my dream. That would allow me to take all the story ideas I have, of which there is a very lengthy spreadsheet with lots of ideas in there. That would let me write any book that I wanted to write. But there's a lot of extra like pre-work on the front side. So, validating things of like, you want this or you don't want that. All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good to go there. Let me go ahead and reload. I don't actually have to copy it again. I can just load and refresh the page and you'll see that genre will have a tag right here. So that's how I'll know it has the most recent information. So it's pulling it in. Yep, right there. And then the B slots. So I have to pick a blackjack to load, and you'll see that it doesn't have all my blackjacks there. So that's okay. I just have to clear my cache because I added those blackjacks after I had already loaded the project. So now if I come to my B slots here, now you'll see I have a whole drop down of blackjacks that I can choose from. Let me go ahead and do 1 through 10, load that blackjack. Load that blackjack. We're probably going to keep the name of blackjack, even though eventually, not even eventually, in like the next couple of days, this probably by early next week, you'll have unlimited. We already have unlimited blackjack, so you can have more than 21 sections in there. But because it originally had 21 and we called it a blackjack, we'll probably just keep calling them blackjacks. Our Notion pages, they will be able to have more than 21 pages here very soon as well. We probably won't change that either. It's your Notion slots. So these are the B slots. By the way, A slots are coming. You'll have 5 AI slots that you'll be able to set on your artificial intelligence on your AI page here in your panels. And then on different individual bangs, you'll be able to be like, okay, here's the default for all these bangs, but like maybe scene 6 or bang 6, you need that to be not safe for work. You'll be able to be like, okay, no, this needs to be A1. And that A1 preset is, your Mistral presets or Mythomax or something like that, so that you can actually create a sequence that has all these different artificial intelligences writing, depending on what the purpose is. For scene briefs, I find that Turbo is really great. So I'm going to use GPT-4 Turbo. I'm going to use 0.7 as my temperature so that it has to follow my instructions. Everything else is good. We literally have our Notion slots good. We have our B slots. So in Word Banger, I'm going to go ahead and click Bang 'em. Boop. And what that does is it brings everything in. All the information here. I need to skip the big bang box. Like I don't want what previously was written to go into it because it'll start muddying it. But we'll go ahead and go 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5, comma 6, comma 7, comma 8, comma 9, comma 10. So all the skips, and I'll update that. 10 instances is fine because I'm only going to be running 6. So I'm going to run 6 repeats, start banging at 1. Because why am I only doing 6? Because I only have 6 scenes that are ready. And all of that work, I know, 2.5 hours. Now we're finally ready to get some scene briefs. So let me press enter, and now it's just running. The mocking of Caroline Bingley. Oh dear. So I think it's confused on what happens. Let's see here. Caroline. Ooh. So I've got to run that one again because it doesn't understand that Jane can talk. Jane can talk. But anyway, we have a scene brief. Or I can just make changes to the scene brief if I want to do that. That's possible as well. So now it's going to start with number, did we do 6? Yeah, we're doing 6. Oh, there's number 2. So it's doing scene writing brief. Every once in a while it tags this. I think I've got to change my prompt so that it tags this with this in the opening and this at the end. I think I just need to fix my prompt on that. That's my bad. All right, the drawing room. Mr. Darcy, Caroline, Jane with her piano playing. Okay. Haha. Sparking further conversation. All right. High proportion of dialogue. So it's writing these things. I'm going to go ahead and start. While that's running, I'm going to go ahead and start fixing the scene plan for number 1. So right here, Actually, I guess this works. I can just have her be asleep. Why wouldn't Jane say something, though? That doesn't make sense. Okay, but it makes Elizabeth not so bad about eavesdropping. So Jane falls asleep before Caroline and Mrs. Hurst enter the room. Okay. She falls asleep early in the scene. Yeah, so that way they only share up. Oh, am I not sharing my screen anymore? Oh, my bad. Thank you, Ingrid. Sorry about that, everyone. Oh my gosh, I did all of that without sharing my screen. That's the worst. You guys saw none of that. Oh dear. Maybe that's why people were calling me. Oh my goodness. Okay. This is what happens when Elizabeth makes changes and forgets to be her own producer. So what I did was the scene briefs here I loaded from the blackjack. I had to come over to projects. I had to clear my cache because I'd already loaded project first and then I brought in my blackjacks. So I just had to clear my cache to make sure that they were all listed. Your elements page now, I have my Notion slots. I went ahead and put everything in Tupperware containers. So that's all there. Then my B slots, they say, read the following story information and write it. And then it says, please tag this. Now write a detailed scene 1 writing brief. So it's going to read the Notion slots, and then it's going to write this detailed scene brief for each one. I also went ahead and told it to skip the Big Bang box on each one of those 10, and then I clicked update, what that does is it prevents my prompt from getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's in the process now of running them. So it was on number 6. I did GPT-4 16K or 128K turbo. So I got the scene 1 writing brief, and there was a mistake because it has like Jane awake, and I needed to edit it so that Jane falls asleep. And so that basically Elizabeth can ask them while she runs to her room for a book. So I'm making tweaks to the scene writing brief. Right now it's working on number, I don't know what number it's on. What number are you on? It's on number 5. So it'll finish up with number 6. And now I'm over here and I'm validating. So this is scene 1, the mocking of Caroline Bingley. I don't think it's the mocking of Caroline Bingley. I think it's the mocking of Elizabeth Bennet. The sick room, and everybody's going on there. The atmosphere. Clink of china as tea is served. Tea is not served. Or are we? Do we have that later on in the plot? I don't know. Yeah, tea is not being served. We're taking that out. Gentle glow. Focus on her self-well-being. Resting in bed. She offers a weak smile, comforted by her presence. She falls asleep early in the scene, so I'm fixing it there. Caroline Bingley, full of false concern for Jane. She quickly reverts to her true Shabbos demeanor when speaking with Mrs. Hurst. Echoes to care for her sister, recover, assert, and support her sister in her social machinations. Cool. Conflict. This becomes a catalyst to challenge Caroline. Okay. The scene opens with Elizabeth. All of the behavior she has observed at Netherfield, such as Mr. Bingley's visits, Mr. Darcy's taciturn manner, and Caroline Bingley desperate for Mr. Darcy's attention. Okay. enter the sick room. Seemingly relieved that Jane is asleep. So they are absolved of visiting for long. Elizabeth excuses herself to retrieve a book from her room so she can read while her sister sleeps. The two sisters, Caroline and Mrs. Hurst, agree to stay until she returns. As Elizabeth comes back, she hears the conversation is not flattering for her and pauses outside the door. Okay. Begins to mock her. Listens. Okay. Allowing the Bingley sisters to leave. Does not give Caroline the satisfaction of revealing that she heard them. Elizabeth's mind races. As she opens up a copy of A Midsummer Night's Dream. One of the paltry offerings of the Netherfield Park Library. There we go. I know I misspelled midsummer. Midsummer's Night's Dream. Okay. Vivid descriptions, all of that. I like that information there. Stark contrast between the genuine kindness of the Bennet sisters and the superficiality. Yep. Cunning plan to come, creating anticipation. Elizabeth is inspired by the Fae, particularly Puck, and deciding to create mischief. Okay, there we go. So we have this entire thing going on. All right, auto write. Back to the auto write. So that was for scene 1. So what I'm going to do is rename this. I keep my timestamps always. And what I do is I usually go scene 1, writing brief. So that's done. And now to, oopsies. Now I need to fix scene 2. So sometimes this happens where it prompts it. It doesn't put it at the bottom. It doesn't close it at the bottom. Let me make sure scene 1 didn't do that. Scene 1 has it at the beginning and at the end. So yeah, we're good. Okay, scene 2. Nope, clicked the wrong one, Elizabeth. Scene 2. We transition from the drawing room to the focal, sure. Witty, all this other stuff. When I was reading this as it was going, I think it was okay. His sister plays, called Beethoven's blah, 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 blah. Mentions Elizabeth's ability to play the piece. Limited and all of those things. Oh, this works. So Jane could have secretly heard those tarts, and that's why she's helping her sister. I like that idea. That's a good layering of the deeper. Leading with subtext. Okay. So what is the sparking further conversation? So it doesn't even talk about the Mary thing. how Elizabeth knows the piece. And she confesses their Uncle Gardner brings them sheet music regularly. Caroline Bingley asks if that is the uncle in trade, and Elizabeth nods. Mr. Darcy asks if Elizabeth is particularly fond of playing, talking about his sister, Georgiana, who practices for hours every day. Elizabeth shakes her head and explains she only learned the piece to help her sister Mary, who does love the instrument as much as perhaps Mr. Darcy's sister, but may not be so proficient. Okay, so that's the exchange there. I kind of want Elizabeth and Darcy to dance. How would I arrange that? Perfect. Mr. Darcy asks, flatters Miss Bingley if she will play a song. And Miss Bingley proudly plays a reel, believing Mr. Darcy will stay by her as she plays. But instead, Mr. Darcy asks Elizabeth to dance while Mr. Bingley claps along on the side. There we go. All right, so this should be another plot point here. Elizabeth shakes her head. Okay, so this is a new plot point right here. Whoopsies, Command Z. Okay, the dance sequences should build tension while also displaying, okay, laden with subtext and all of that. So this is a very long scene. I like it. We've got scene 2 now. So scene 2 writing brief is done. And this can be very helpful for even those of you who don't plot, because you can get the help. And I'm always free to go away, to deviate from this when I'm writing. Now, this is interesting. You'll see here, despite the psychedelic coloration on the walls where the tapestries once hung, this comes from that setting information. So this is why pre-writing matters, because then it'll always bring in this like little bit of information and then it can use it. Adept in literature. They're supposed to do sonnet number 116. Okay, so this is, and there we go. I've seen 3 writing brief. Okay, I want it to be, okay, so it's got Shakespeare's sonnets 116, but does so poorly, misinterpreting the rhythm and emotion of the piece, and a few words. Okay, so for this one, I need to actually give it, this is where being a creative director comes into play. I need to go ahead and give it what the heck sonnet 116 is, because I don't want to rely on it knowing it. So since it knows what it needs to do, I'm going to put it up at the top here. And I'm just going to put this as extra information. So I'm going to put sonnet 116 actual writing. This is the what true love alter, all that jazz. Does not seek to alter. It's one of the famous ones. Shakespeare's. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT to come up with something of like, rewrite this in a way that, and this is all fine. This is public domain stuff, guys. I'm not putting anything into the LLMs that somebody else is writing. I mean, Bill Shakespeare's been dead for like 400 years. And there's some scholars out there that don't believe he wrote everything anyway. That's actually a compilation of authors, which makes more sense. Sonnet 116. So it's going to come right up there. Let me not to the marriage of true minds. So we'll just copy this. And we will put it into here so that way it knows. Now this is Caroline's mistaken version of Shakespeare's Sonnet 116. It's actually very smart with the scene briefs. I once went a few weeks ago when I was writing with it and I said like the goblins speak in rhyme. It actually was able to do that. So I'm going to say, give me a rendition of Sonnet 116 that might be recited incorrectly by Caroline Bingley, trying to show how educated she is, but revealing that she is only superficially so. She should not make many mistakes, but the mistakes she makes should be comical. Changing the meaning of the sonnet. Now let's see if it knows what Sonnet 116 is. If it doesn't, then, so it does know it. Let's see if it can do that. Might recite this. Never fixed mark. Upon me grooved. She goes finds and minds. Okay, I like the let me not. Okay, so I'm actually, this gives me an idea, but I'm going to go ahead and change it the way I want to change it. So now that I have this kind of inspiration from the AI, let me not to the marriage of, let's take out the not, because I think that would let me to the marriage of true finds. Admit impediments. Admit instruments. There we go. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration minds. So yeah, she'll flip that, which completely changes the meaning. Or bends with the mover to move. So she's gonna really like not know this sonnet, but she's trying. Oh no. It is an ever fixed mark. It is a never fixed mark. Yes. So she's just gonna like completely got it backwards. Okay. Yeah. So she'll get to that before she's cut off. Okay. Attempts to impress. Elizabeth tries to help her begun wrong, but Caroline insists. When she gets stuck at the never fixed mark, there is silence at the table as many try not to laugh, including Mrs. Hurst, Mr. and Mrs. Hurst. Joins in to finish Caroline's recitation with the correct lines, starting at there. So I'm orchestrating this as I go. So the plot points. So she's going to starting at right there. And Mr. Darcy, familiar, but pauses at that looks pauses after boop-a-doop in hopes that Caroline will finish, but the woman drinks her wine and glares at Elizabeth. Okay. Mr. Darcy, familiar with the sonnet, is drawn into finishing the verses. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved. Okay, that would be hot in a scene, I just have to say. Keeping his eyes on Elizabeth. Okay, keeping his eyes on Elizabeth. There we go. All right. Proving glances, enjoying the moment and the connection, visibly infuriated by being shown up. She attempts to mask her annoyance with forced laugh and feigned indifference. Right here, she compliments Mr. Darcy on his recitation and ignores Elizabeth, causing Mr. Hurst to state the obvious. Caroline messed up the sonnet so badly. It's a wonder that Miss Elizabeth knew which sonnet she was talking about. She was saying, okay, there we go. Tension emerges. The scene showcases should provide an opportunity. Blah, 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 blah. It's doing all of this. So we're good. Okay, scene 3 is done. Scene 4. Draft novella. Scene 3, writing brief. I always forget to do that. Oh my goodness. Scene 4. All right, all of this information inflicting. I don't think I need to change this very much. I think that this is good. I'm going to just add in there that they're going to talk about like stuff about the estate. Like the conversation should. Okay. The men. Oopsies. Mundane aspects of the estate that need attention. Mr. Darcy begins to outline reasons he cannot advise Mr. Bingley to purchase the estate. And then that's going to lead to Mr. Bingley. Oopsies. No, we don't want to change the formatting. Mr. Bingley asks, what if he has other reasons, additional reasons to remain in the neighborhood? Mr. Darcy asks, such as, and this starts talk about the Bennet sisters. Okay, I gotta fix my verbiage here because I misspelled some words. Advise why he cannot advise Mr. Bingley to purchase the estate. To purchase Netherfield Park. Oopsies here. Netherfield Park at the end of his lease. Okay. Might have his own affections to consider. Okay. This dream is romantic and Darcy retires to his room for the evening, finding himself glancing at the door of Miss Elizabeth's suite before entering his own. Is romantic and lovely. But just as it's becoming more, how do I say R-rated? That's not the one I want. More physical. In love, Mr. Darcy wakes up. Okay. Okay, there we go. End the scene with Darcy alone. So that was scene 4. All good. Scene 4, writing brief. Usually I'm faster on this because I don't have to explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I just do it. Let me check the chat. Make sure everybody's still okay. Okay. I'm still okay. I am screen sharing now, so we're all good. Hi, Aisling. Glad to see you. Okay, so we had that issue again where the scene writing brief, it did not. I had to fix my prompting on that. So I'll put this at the bottom. All right. They engage in a battle of wits. They will discuss a topic that is slightly controversial for the time, perhaps the role of women in society and the importance of marrying for love. Okay, perfect. Remember, I put in there, come up with something that's slightly a problem, but not a big deal. Elizabeth will explain that she helps her father run the estate, run Longbourn regularly. Perfect. Okay, exhibiting her intelligence, demonstrating pride, blah, 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 or left alone in the drawing room. Summoned by the housekeeper. There we go. Right to inherit property or be educated, which would have been a forward-thinking stance for her time. Oh, yes. Inquires about Longbourn. She loves her home and believes a woman should inherit tries to explain the purpose of an entail to keep a family's legacy intact. Oh yeah, no, I want to expand this. I know exactly how this is going to happen. Elizabeth asks if Pemberley, if his estate is so entailed. And Mr. Darcy says that no, Pemberley is not entailed, which places an enormous amount of burden on him, for should he not produce an heir, his sister would be the next of kin. Elizabeth asks if he would deny his sister the home in which she grew up. And Mr. Darcy says, never, but that Georgiana will likely one day wish to marry and have a life with her husband. Frustrated, asks if Mr. Darcy knows of any woman running an estate, with a smile, as she reveals that she helps her father extensively. Mr. Darcy laughs, or chuckles, and mentions that his aunt, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, does run her own estate, Rosings, but that he visits every Easter to review the books. Elizabeth asks if they are ever out of order. And Mr. Darcy furrows his brow and confesses that no, they are not. So Elizabeth brashly states that it sounds to her that Mr. Darcy visits his aunt annually, and she is kind enough to amuse him with ledgers. This is when Caroline Bingley walks back in. Okay, so perfect. I think that that's great. Not by the richest of our own mind. Okay. There we go. I like it. I think that that's perfect. I would enjoy reading that. And that's really what this is. It's like I put in requests. Like I want to see it written. And what's cool is when I have a writing brief, I can have multiple models write it. I can change all the settings. I can really see what it does. All right. So scene 5. Oh, my naming conventions is wrong. So scene 4, just to keep them consistent. Drives me bonkers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why do I have a 7, I wonder? That's interesting. Oh, because it's going to, my bad. It always puts everything when you, oh, it's got there at the bottom. Anytime you run a sequence inside of Rexy, it will always put everything all together as one final sequence so that you have it all together as once, so you can see the original AI before you made changes. I'm seeing the room is quiet. Seeks reassurance and guidance. Okay, so that's all good. Okay. Visual prompt. Yes. Yes, perfect. Ah, I love this. I love this. This is exactly a good turning point. Okay, so we have 6 scenes and now we're ready to write them. Let me check the chat. Boop, boop, boop. Just watch the 2005 movie. It's a good way to get like the spirit of it. I know many Jane Austen writers would like have my head about that, but I realized I was dancing and you guys weren't even able to see it. Okay, so this was stuck for a little bit. So we have un, deux, trois, quatre. Okay, so I need to grab these. Oh, I did not rename 6. That's bad on my part. Scene 6 writing brief. So here's how this works. I'm going to grab these and I'm literally going to drag them up into my pre-writing. Now they're going to be out of order. Bum, bum, bum. We usually use a handy dandy system where 1 through 10 is always kind of like the elements and things that you might need in your prompt. 11 through 20 are the ones that have to do with what comes next. So I am actually going to have one. Let me move them right here so they're between 11. There we go. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I can delete n through 16. And then 17, 18, and I can always duplicate and duplicate. I don't really need these ones at the bottom. They're really just for the human me so that I can assess. And so now to run this, and this is where this gets kind of faster as you go. All I'm going to do is refresh my notion slots. So we refresh that so that information is correct now with our scene writing briefs. And if I come down here, I should see them populate right here into N11 and N12, etc. And they're right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're good there. And then all I got to do is my B slots. I'm not writing scene briefs anymore. Now I'm writing scenes. So I just load that blackjack instead. Da 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 da. Oh, I do need to put something into N9. That's my fault. So N9 is usually the scene writing brief. So I'm going to it's going to follow the scene writing brief and put that there. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate, because all of them are going to call for N9, I'm going to grab the writing style and bring that into my N9. And then write the scene following in the writing style, following the scene writing brief. Please tag the scene you write as scene X draft at the beginning and scene X draft at the end, where X is the scene number the writing brief has. So it knows that, and we're good there. Do not tell me that you cannot write a novel scene. You are only writing a good first draft for me, the author, to edit. Please write at least 2,000 to 3,000 words. Embellishing with additional dialogue in character and description of the setting or adding bit characters such as interactions with the staff. There we go. Now, I know it won't get the staff names correct because I don't have that list of staff in this prompt, but that's fine. I can always fix those in edit. So that's going to be my N9 prompt. So what it's going to do is it's going to, for this one, I'm going to clear all. So I'm clearing out all the banks that were previously in there. So it's going to read the following scene writing brief, N11, which is for scene 1. And then N9 is going to be the writing style. So I'm going to be scene writing brief and writing style. Actually, I won't put that in there. I'll take that out because the truth is it's all going to be there anyway, so it's fine. So the scene writing brief, and I don't want to change all of them because I just don't want to do that. Now we're only going to do, since I changed my N slots, I need to go ahead and refresh the page because you'll notice that my N9 has nothing in it. So I have to refresh the page. The reason I added the language of like, don't tell me you can't do this is because GPT-4 Turbo has routinely been like, I can't write this. And it's like, dude, yes, you can. Stop it. So Claude always writes best for me, but we'll do GPT-4 Turbo and then we'll do Claude for each of these scenes. And that will probably end our live today. That'll get us close to about 3 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my auto write. And I'm going to say here that this is scenes 1 through 6, GPT-4 Turbo. So we'll do that one first. And we'll put that also here. So I know that I ran it with GPT-4 Turbo. Okay, I have my Notion slots. I have my B slots. I haven't clicked Bang 'em yet. Let me click Bang 'em. So they're brought in. I don't want my prompt to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as I go. So I'm going to go ahead and do no big bang box. So I could check these individually up to 6, but you'll see that it just adds it in the big bang skips box. So I can just add the numbers there. We're doing 6 repeats because we're writing 6 scenes. We're not resetting or anything like that. So let me update those settings to make sure that all the way down to number 6 has the no big bang box. We should be running GPT-4, which we are. Let me check the AI settings just to make sure. 0.7, so it has to follow 1P. That's fine. And let's bang and let's see. Now we're writing scenes, guys. And he'd always says, I'm sorry. Okay. So let me just stop it right now since it wants to be a jerk. Do not tell me that you cannot write a novel scene. So this is something that is, I don't know why GPT-4 is being so persnickety right now, the Turbo. It's almost like it became Claude. So let me see what I can do here. I'm going to just say, start with the phrase, scene. Okay, so this is kind of a hack. I think it's going to work. I hope it's going to work. These things are so hard-coded to be obedient. So we're going to say start with the phrase scene. So it's going to start the tag. So start with the tag phrase. So basically I'm telling its instructions to do this to get it past this whole, I can't write fiction. I don't know who the heck introduced Turbo to GPT-4 or introduced Turbo to Claude, but they need to not talk. So I'm going to click update my AI settings. So that'll clear that out. I'm going to clear my big bang box. I'm going to go ahead and update my Notion slots and refresh the page. So that way, because I made that changes to N9, my hope, this is kind of like I work with AI all the time. Sometimes when you start it off with a sentence of what to start off with, it kind of like overrides the glitch of I can't do this because it stops it from going into the mode of can I start the task because it thinks the task starts with just start writing scene and then it'll keep following the instructions. At least that's my hope. Let me make sure. So part of the problem is that because it did fill my bangs in, it has the old prompting in here. So what I do need to actually do is I need to clear all, which will clear my bangs because I changed my Notion 9 page. Come back over to B slots and just click refresh the B slots and then click bang them. So now it's back in here, N11, N9, because I want the new N9. And we put our skips in, update the skips. All right, fingers crossed that this goes. Ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, Elizabeth the AI whisperer. Oh, I'm going to be a nerd. Take that. Take that. Tell me you can't write for me. Ha. There's only one queen in this relationship, AI, and that's me. So here we have where it's talking about the sick room. How is dear Jane? We shall keep watch over her. So it's very short. I shall not disappoint you. Oh, wow, this is really bad. Okay, so we're going to stop this because GPT-4 Turbo is just being stupid. I don't like any of this. This is just bad. This is bad writing. Turbo is not the best at writing scenes. Turbo is fantastic at writing scene briefs, but it's really just rubbish at writing actual scenes, which is unfortunate because we haven't like fine-tuned it. I think a 16K fine-tuned to write would actually do better than GPT-4 Turbo, which is great because it's a tenth of the cost. So what I'm going to do is I am going to click into my line editor and then click back into WordBanger just so that it cleans that up. I'm going to clear my the clear there just clears your Big Bang box. It doesn't clear all your instas. See, all my instas are fine. And I'm going to change the model because GPT, that one is just bad. So we're just going to do GPT-4 because all of my prompts, this is why I think that, writing in silos is better than writing, read what happened next, read what already happened, write the next thing. Number one, that's too much context for it to follow along. And number two, it causes it to be too expensive for some of the models. So since I want a decent prose and I don't want to have to do a lot of editing, it's worth it for me because I have validated my scene briefs. I have spent that time. I am going ahead and using GPT-4 Turbo, which is expensive. It's going to cost me about 6 to 12 cents per scene that it writes. Plus the prompt is less than 1,000 words. So right around 3 cents. So 3 plus 50, so about 15 cents a chapter, or a scene rather. And since I'm running 6 times 15 is 90. So this should cost me about $1. Temperature's good. We'll put the presence penalty at 1.0. Update. And actually here I'm going to say, write at least 2,000 to 3,000 words. Because my backup is Claude. If this does not work, I'll go to Claude because Claude will behave-ish, maybe, hopefully. So since I changed that, again, I have to go to my N slots, refresh my page, because that'll refresh the prompt for all of the different B slots. And then over here on my B slots, I need to refresh my B slots and bang them. So now they're in there again. I don't have to do the Big Bang skip. They're already still there for all of those. So that didn't change. So that's all good. So my AI now is GPT-4, 0.7 temperature. Everything's all good. We'll update and we'll run these again now. We want 6 repeats starting at 1. Let's bang GPT-4. And hopefully it's not going to tell me. There we go. Scene 1 draft. Entered the room. Oh, poor dear Jane. So I need more information there. This is like too fast. All right, I'm firing GPT. Stop, cancel. For my style of writing, OpenAI just isn't the best. So we're just going to bring in Claude. This is just I'm not going to spend a whole dollar on writing that I know is stilted and just not what I want. At least not until I can fine tune a 3.5 16K to write like me, like Steph has. I need more hours in a day, seriously. So to clear this, I'm going to go to line editor, come back over to Word Banger. We'll clear our big bang box. And now I'm just going to use Claude. So you can get Claude through AWS Bedrock. You can also get it through OpenRouter. I'm going to go ahead and use my Anthropic key because it's the same thing. I'm going to do 2.1. I'm going to see what happens here. And we're going to bring the temperature down to 0.5. So it really has to listen. I want to see what it can do. I haven't played with 2.1 in a while, and I'm wondering if since we have a plan now, it will do it. So it has all the information here. And let's go with 1 and start banging at 1. Let's just do 1 and see if 2.1 can do it. We're living dangerously low. Oh, it's doing it. Haha, take that. All right, hopefully it actually writes something decent and adds more stuff. Yes, yes, this is what I wanted. I wanted Claude to like add in extra dialogue and ambiance and all of that. I shall be all right. Hush now. You dote. Let me dote on you a little bit. Okay, not so our solitude is interrupted. Like, let's not do that. We'll change the verbiage. All right. It was clear that neither leader wished to linger over long, no matter how perfunctory shows of concern. She'll benefit greatly from the peace and quiet which you are so kindly allowing her. It is nothing. I love it. All right, so she's going to fetch a book. Captain, oh, this is much better dialogue. And guys, I did this with Claude 2.1. I don't know if 2.1 is, I wonder if it's cheaper than 2.0. I don't remember. Pricing, Claude 2.1. Let's see what it does. Model pricing. Oh boy, do you Rusifit. Okay, so 2 and 2.1 are the same prices. So the prompt is 0.008, or no, 0.08, I think, for 1,000 tokens. And then I don't know. I'd have to do the math on that. Let me do the math on that. I know you guys want the other thing. Give me a second. Let me just write it down, and then I'll have the math for you while that's running. $8 and $24 for 1 million tokens. I'm not running 1 million tokens, but nice to know that if I ran 1 million tokens to run a whole book, it only cost me $24. So yeah, this is much cheaper than GPT-4, I believe. Okay, so this is writing a much better scene. It wrote 1167. I'm happy with that. So I think I'm confident enough to go ahead and let this run. So I'm going to do 5 repeats, and I'm going to start banging it 2 to let it go ahead and doot. But I think I need to change my auto write, and I do, because this is not GPT-4. This should be Claude 2.1. So I will do Claude 2.1, and then I will do Claude 2.0, so I can compare and contrast them, since I'm only running a couple of scenes. So we'll do 6. I'm actually going to do 6 repeats and start banging at 1. So it redoes this. So I really wanted to write at least 3,000 words. I wanted to write the max. So let me tweak my prompt here and write at least 3,000 words. Claude works better when you just over tell him what to do. And again, elements, end slots, refresh the page. And it's loaded. And then I clear my big bang box there in the middle there. And then I'm going to refresh my B slots, and I'm going to bang them. I don't think I have to click refresh my B slots, but I just do. So that way the new N9 is going to load. So we're running 6.1. Our AI is Claude 2.1. I do have my temperature all the way down at 1/2, because you have to lower that temperature to get Claude to obey. And I'm going to update, and I'm going to go let's bang. And let me check the chat. Bow down, AI. Yeah, I'm fussy. I am like, nope. Okay, so let me do the math here on this stuff because I know I have about 1,000 tokens on that. And then the output, if it's 2,000 words, that's at least 3K tokens, roughly, rounded up, just to make for easier math. Okay, so if I have $24 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a million, I'm using a calculator real fast. That's that per token, multiply that times 1,000. Yeah, okay, so 0.024 per 1,000 completion. That is way cheaper than GPT-4. GPT-4 is 6 cents per 1,000, and this is 2.4 cents per 1,000 completion, which means this is going to be 0.008 for the prompt. Wow, this is really cheap. So each scene cost me about 1,000 tokens. Oh, let me scroll down so you guys can follow it along as it's writing. Oh, it's still working on scene 1. Brilliant. All right, so we'll let that run. They would disparage her, but her beloved Jane. Oh, I love this. She could not be hearing correctly. Yes, yes, I love this. This is even better. Oh, I'm tickled. Okay, so this is going to be 0.008 cents per the prompt. Shoot, we'll round it up to 1/6. So 16 cents, 16 thousandths of a cent. No, 16 thousandths of a dollar. So it'd be 16 tenths of a cent. I know you guys can't see my math. I'm doing it on my paper here. And then 0.024 times 3 would equal 0 and then a 6 plus the 1, so 72. Now this new methodology here is going to cost me, if it's 2,000 tokens in my prompt and 3,000 tokens in my completion, for a total of 5,000 tokens per prompt because I'm running in a silo, that adds up to 0.072 plus 0.016, which is 0.088. Is that right? Oh, wait, that can't be right. Okay, so it's only 8.8 cents per scene this way. And if I have 8.8 cents times 6 scenes, this is going to cost me 52 cents. This is half the cost. To run it with Claude, it is half the cost of OpenAI's GPT-4, which is writing crap anyway. So huzzah for cheaper and better. Okay, let's see here. Are we on scene 2 yet? Yes, we are. We are on scene 2. Goodness, it is 2:30. Well, it's not my fault that the AI didn't want to write. Exerting himself to be agreeable. Caroline, will you take over? Wait, she's not supposed to know. Oh, yes, do play some Beethoven, Miss Bingley. My sister Lizzie plays There is One. What is it called? Okay, so Claude did not follow the scene brief. That happens. It also got stuck in the sense that I think it got to the end. This is just all over here. Aunt Gardner's not in the scene. That was not a good one. Scene 2 is a fail. Fail whale. Let me to the marriage of true finds. Admit instruments. Love is not love. Caroline noticed Elizabeth Bennet suppress a smile. Which alters when it alteration minds, she declaimed with exaggerated gravitas. She wished the servants would stop clattering about so she could be properly heard. Or bends with the mover to move. Forgive me, Miss Bingley, but I believe you may have begun incorrectly. Let me not to the marriage. No, indeed, you misheard. I have it perfectly well in hand. Forged on. that looks on tempest and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Aw. So they are going back and forth. Stared into her soup, humiliation washing over her. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ nor no man. Bravo! Well done! Quite right. It's a wonder anyone could decipher the verses from Miss Bingley's recitation. I fancy even Shakespeare would have been confounded. Oh my gosh! This is savage! Clearly you take great pleasure in poetry. I was merely testing your knowledge of the... Oh, I love that. That is, I probably would have thought of that eventually, but I love that twist that it got Caroline's characterization there, that Caroline's going to try to smooth it over. She forced. Okay. Dinner passed slowly. Lady Catherine de Bourgh's not there. Oh, dear Rusifet. No, indeed not. There is no Lady Catherine. Okay, so we're going to have to... I need to take notes as I'm validating this as it's coming off the hopper here. That is some mess. All right, scene 3. No Lady Catherine. Scene 2. Rerun. Half done and wrong. All right, scene 1 was good. I liked scene 1. All right, here's scene 4. Dozed in the corner. It seems the Madeira at dinner has gotten the better of our friend Mr. Hurst once again. Indeed, the wine selection here leaves something to be desired. I was just considering a few other areas of the estate that could use improvement. Oh, do tell me your thoughts. Careful, Bingley, or I might just talk you out of this place altogether. As I was saying earlier over billiards, the furnishings are dreadfully outdated. The stables are far too small, and the library. All those are just minor details. Oh, its environments have far too much to recommend them for me to ever give it up. Indeed, and what, may I ask, has caused this sudden attachment to the place? Well, that is to say, let's just say I found the society in the local neighborhood to be quite charming. The society? Are you by any chance referring to a certain genteel young lady of our recent acquaintance? As a matter of fact, I am. Okay, yep, that's perfect. It seems you've quite taken with our fair Jane Bennet. Indeed, I am. I noticed you talking with her on more than one occasion now. Miss Elizabeth is unconventional, to be sure. Far more outspoken and independent than most ladies of our circle. With fine eyes, too. Don't think I haven't seen you admiring them across the room. But I fear their owner looks upon the world with an impertinence I do not always admire. She seems to take great pleasure in vexing me. All the better to engage your interest. Surely you don't think I harbor intentions of the kind. I only meant to say any gentleman must tread cautiously in such matters of the heart. Let's see here. I find that... Forgive me, Bingley. I find myself quite wearied by the day's sport. I believe I shall retire early. Yes. Okay. But found his steps slowing as he passed by. Yes, that's so perfect. Oh. Strange forest. Oh, we got sunlight dappling. Take a drink. Although I think in that application I would leave it because it's pretty funny because it's supposed to be dreamlike. Wildflowers. I was waiting for you, sir. Hush. Oh, and they're kissing. There we go. And he's awake. Yes, that's what dangerous madness was this? This is why I read this genre, y'all. The turkey carpet? I think Turkish carpet. Maybe not the turkey carpet. All right, scene 5. Here we go. Miss Bennet, please come in. Our hosts otherwise engaged? I did not expect such solitude this afternoon. I believe they have gone to the kitchens. Then I shall await their return. Mary is our family's musical talent. Okay, but so scene 5 has a non sequitur. She's already played piano, so we have to fix that. Or I work with scene 2 and just change it. One of the two, but I need to reconcile scene 2 and scene 5. All right. Pianofortes in drawing rooms. Very well. Very well. I should be direct. That's brash. I think I would change this so that he politely inquires about Longbourn. And then she just starts off with, well, I think the laws suck. From your perspective, though surely you must understand why so many estates pass only to the eldest male heir, preserves a family's legacy. But is that truly more valuable than providing for one's daughters? Instead of being barred from inheritance, we women must pin our hopes on winning the affections of a well-endowed suitor. Oh, that would embarrass him, and maybe, some reaction there. You make a fine argument. I begin to see your injustice more clearly. Then you agree change is needed. I did not say that. You're exceptional. And yet a man need only be born first to receive that burden. What of those ill-prepared second sons who inherit by chance? Touché. I will concede that some men prove just as ill-equipped to run estates, but you cannot deny it as a rare woman who oversees such matters, only because we are never given the chance. Are you claiming yourself ready to manage an estate then? Of course. Why should running a household differ so greatly from running an estate? Most ladies. Is that what your sister does? Leaves Pemberley's management entirely to... Well, no. But as I'm unmarried now, the responsibility remains mine for now. Exactly. It's Netherfield's master. The duties fall to Mr. Bingley. What role has Miss Bingley played in managing this estate? There, you see, women are denied the chance to even attempt running matters. And if there are no female relations, a man's entire legacy can be lost. Now, okay, now that, I like that a little bit, because it's kind of, he would think that she wants to marry him, and she wasn't talking about that at all. She was just arguing. And inexperienced men do not. I would wager my sisters and I could aptly handle Longbourn despite our lack of involvement with lands and finances. No. What? This is where the AI is not human. There's no reality where Mr. Darcy is going to have Elizabeth Bennet run Pemberley for a while. How delightful. Okay. So scene 5 needs changes, lots of changes, but there's good stuff there. I am going to run this again with 2.0, which I think is going to behave better and obey the scene brief. You're up early, much improved, thinking about a certain Mr. Bingley, perhaps. Okay. Do you think so? Yes, I do believe so. Well, Mr. Darcy admire me. Surely you jest, Jane. The man can barely tolerate my presence half the time. To find fault, no doubt. Jane. If you say so. All right. Believe what you will, dear Jane. Come, let us talk more, Mr. Darcy. This room grows warm, and I find myself longing for some fresh air. Do you truly? Merely a 7 night, and any longer, and I shall become truly indelicate. Indelicate? Why, Jane, I never thought you wanted to stand on ceremony with friends. Yeah, I need to fix that a little bit, too. Yeah, it's not going to be a few more days. They did not, scene 6, it did not follow the instructions at all. Did not obey. There should be the promise to leave the next day. And then the rain comes. This is 2.1's notes. I'm putting notes in my notebook, so I know how to fix it. Okay. Well, I enjoyed that. I laughed heartily. That was a lot of fun. Now to see how many total words it wrote. Hello, Secrets of Silver Clouds. Nice to see you. Don't worry, we're wrapping up here soon. We're going to run this one more time with Claude 2.0. GPT-4 Turbo said he couldn't write. I got him to obey by saying, start off with the scene, blah, 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 kind of overriding that glitch. But he still sucked at it. Then GPT-4 was not much better. So I went to Claude because Claude just writes better for me, in my opinion. So altogether, that was 7,353 words. If I ever want to see how long it actually took to write, this is where I love the timestamp. So I can come down here. So here's where my 2.1 started. So we started at the 27 and we ended at the 39. Well, really at the 40. So 13 minutes for 7,000 words. Roughly translates to 13 divided by, no, I'm trying to think here. How many words per minute? So divide by the minutes. 7,343 divided by 13. That's 564 words per minute. Even if I cut half of those words, that's still 250 words per minute. That's a pretty fast rate. Now, the problem is there was hours of pre-prep for all of this to run. But I enjoy the pre-prep. I enjoy coming up with scenarios and working my outlines and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put a plus sign here for the, oops, that's wrong, GPT-4. This information is here and put a space. And now I'll put Claude 2.0, which I think is actually going to behave better. I'm going to be really, really sad if they deprecate 2.0. That'll make me very sad. So now we will do Claude 2.0. I don't need to change the prompts. I do need to clear my Big Bang box. Actually, I don't have to, but I'm going to. We're all skipping the Big Bang box. It's not getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes. So running both Claude 2.0 and 2.1, I will have $1 is what this will cost me to run. So let's bang all 6. And here it goes. And this is another thing that I love about Rexy. Once my prompts are all in there, I can literally run a whole bunch of different models, like boom, 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 and then compare and contrast what the differences are. Or I could change my settings and really kind of play with that. It allows you to have this kind of like infrastructure to play with a bunch of prompts to sequence it, get a lot of words done by changing information there. So let's see if this follows the instructions a little bit better. And then I have to go because I need to eat. I should probably go ahead and order something from DoorDash. Perhaps I shall. Okay. Oh, and thank you guys for all of the different calls about sharing the screen. I see now why you guys all called me. I'm so sorry. So, all right. Let's see what it has here. Okay, so this one started with her getting the book, and then she's coming back. Oh, Jane, you poor dear. Okay, so she's going to go get a handkerchief. So it's sticking with it, but it kind of deviated a little bit. I almost wonder what happens if I take that temperature all the way down. Yes, indeed. The Athenian levels. Well, Caroline Bingley wished for a game of romantic intrigue. Elizabeth was happily obliged. She was no country rogue to be disparaged and dismissed. Would soon direct the gentleman's attention and his passions where she willed. The courtship dance was about to take a rather surprising turn. Okay, that was a better scene, but I could use elements from both, so I like that. Let's see if it follows this a little bit better. Okay, so it's confusing Caroline and Mrs. Hurst right here. I do hope it's nothing serious. Dude, man, you know it's a cold. Mr. Bingley? This is a hot mess. It's confusing Caroline all over the place. Might I request the honor of the next dance? Stabbing at the piano keys. Indeed. And do you happen upon new sheet music during theirs? On occasion. Whatever latest pieces they can find in London, music is so important for a young lady's education. Wholeheartedly. Yeah, this scene is not right. Oh, Jane, I'm woefully out of practice. I think not. Please. Very well, though I apologize in advance for any missed notes. I dare say that's one of Beethoven's sonatas. Might I inquire which family member supplied you? I know it well. My sister Georgiana is quite fond of it. Okay, so I could definitely use some of these elements here. Okay, and I gotta fix that so Caroline says that about him being in trade. I shall not quit my day occupation just yet. That joke does not make sense for 1811. Women did not have jobs. Well, okay, that's not true either. Women did have jobs. Many women had jobs. It's a convenient thing that readers of the genre ignore, that women of the lower classes worked all the time for their sustenance, but the idea of a gentlewoman working was, no, can't happen. Another dance. Yeah, that scene is off the kilter. So it's probably the scene writing brief was too confusing, because it's interesting that it confused Caroline and Mrs. Hurst. So 2.0, scene 2 needs help, which the same thing has to, the first one wasn't good either. So 2.1 and 2.0, I'm messing up on that. Probably means that my scene writing brief is not very clear. I probably have a lot of pronouns in there and it was just closed. Oh dear. Who's worth unknown. Perfect. Oh, bravo, Mr. Darcy. Mrs. Hurst. I love his insult. I think the first one's better in terms of Caroline being flustered and there's more back and forth. So I can put those together. Yeah, because it only wrote 500 words. That's not good. The other one wrote like 2,000, so we can kit bash those together. Manually, I would put them together because I would add in my words and everything like that. The dying embers in the fireplace. The Hurst fellow can sleep through cannon fire. Perfect. See, I think that 2.0 writes better than 2.1. Balance the inkwell on his head. Oh, I love that. That is hilarious. Balance the inkwell on his head or some such nonsense. Oh, that's a bit puckish, Mr. Bingley. You make it all sound like such a chore. Where's your sense of adventure? I dare say your man Stevens could handle it in his sleep. You haven't even seen the rose gardens yet. Jane thinks they're the loveliest in England. Miss Bennet's opinion is suddenly the benchmark for all gardens. Well, you must admit she has excellent taste. This is a little bit of a better dialogue, but I could use some of the other dialogue too from the other one, so I like it. Toward marriage, of course, so do not give me that look, Darcy. I'm absolutely smitten with Miss Bennet. Such grace and sweetness. What? They've kissed? The scandal. It most assuredly is, especially after that kiss. That is what? Angelic nature. Forgive me, Bingley. I should not question what is clearly a sincere infection, but these country families. Becoming engaged to a gentleman of means is no small matter for a lady like Miss Bennet. Implications. I never implied otherwise. I would not have you toy as your own. I beg your pardon. Okay, so this is good. I want to know what it's going to do for the dream part, though. I worry that we're running out of space. No, we're good. We got plenty of space for it. Okay. Some of this is really good, and I can use it for sure. Ooh, they share a wall. Okay, not terrible, but so I could work with this and with the other scene and basically have it to where like he woke up and sunlight's coming through. But I liked better the whole nymph scene in the forest, and it was longer. That was more fun. Oh, forgive me, Mr. Darcy. No matter. Please come in, Miss Bennet. He would call her Miss Elizabeth. Not at all. In fact, I should welcome conversation. How very industrious of you. Does this occupation provide insight into the characters of your friends? You are acquainted with my aunt? Oh, no. Yeah, this is a little bit off. Not given the subject much consideration. As a father has no son, ownership will pass to his cousin, Mr. Collins. Indeed, forgive me, I was unaware, and it seems rather unfair given your evident contribution to the estate. Flatter me, sir, truly in my parents' eyes. Okay. It is not. So ownership would pass to my sister should I fail to produce an heir. However, yes, Mr. Darcy. I like that line, and I might use it in conjunction with the other ones. So I just have to rewrite this scene a little bit more with the pieces of it. And I do a little bit better with AI writing on genres that are not so near and dear to my heart. I've been a fan of Jane Austen fan fiction for almost 20 years now. I started reading it after the 2005 movie came out. I hated the book in high school. Thought it was stupid. Two grown women walking in a room. But that's because I had to read it at 18, and at 18 I didn't care. So when I write other genres with artificial intelligence, I'm a little bit less convicted, I should say, about the results. It also possibly might be a component of the fact that this is historical fiction. I haven't tried writing as much with AI with regular historical fiction, although there was the one time we did the write-a-thon with the steampunk, and I was very opinionated about the details and stuff that it got wrong, and wanting to fix that. So writing with AI is also requires a skill set of I'm not very good about this. It's like, are you comfortable with delegation? In the sense that if it's not wrong, could it be right? Could you take the words and make small tweaks to them? Or are you somebody who feels the need to like whole hog rewrite them? And that's okay too. There's many people at the Future Fiction Academy who actually take what the AI writes and literally set it down, and they just use it as like a skeleton draft, and they completely rewrite and retype each word. Taking as little as possible from the AI and just using it as inspiration. There's really no right way or wrong way to write with AI, other than the only wrong way I would say for writing with AI, and this is my opinion, is if you take the AI words and you publish them and you didn't even read them and validate them yourself. That's the only time I'm going to cry foul and say that authors are in the wrong. But if you read the words as I'm doing and you're making changes and everything like that, I don't think that there is a prescribed amount that has to be artificial intelligence versus non-AI. So here to that. All right, we are coming up on the end of the third hour here, and I am at my end. We're going to finish this last chapter 6 because it is finally on chapter 6, and we'll get a final word count there, and I will have to put them all together and everything like that. That's probably what I'll be working on this weekend. I'll be back live Monday and Thursday and Friday of next week. My goal is to try to finish this story so that it can publish in January. I really need to do that, and I really have enjoyed writing The Gentleman Is Mine. I think this is going to be a very fun story to write. At the very least, I could get it to where he proposes or whatever, and I could do it as a serialization if I absolutely needed to, but I don't really want to do that either. I have no idea what I'm going to plan for the Act 3 or Act 4. I think it's going to tell me it as I get there. I think I'm going to be influenced by Midsummer Night's Dream a little bit. I think that might be some fun things to play with there. And you, Lizzie, I think I might just have the conflict be not with Mr. Wickham. I think I'm going to have Mr. Wickham speak ill about Mr. Darcy, but Elizabeth defends him. So I think I'm going to twist that so that we don't have this be ridiculously long. So the Wickham thing is going to kind of get kiboshed because I think that Mr. Darcy, if he's seriously considering marrying Elizabeth, I think he would be upfront about Mr. Wickham being absolutely terrible and going to Mr. Bennet and being like, no more. And then Mr. Bennet being like, girls, you may not go play cards at your aunt's house anymore. Lydia, Kitty are all, well, but Mrs. Bennet being like, no, with the marriages and things, if Mr. Darcy says that, the gentlemen officers are not fit for company, then we must abide by that. And so then my final conflict could be that Lady Catherine de Bourgh coming in and being like, you're not good enough. And that's a really good foil to that earlier scene that we just were working on, where Mr. Darcy will be forced to admit that his aunt, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, does run her own estate. So it'd be almost kind of like a twist there of the night for Elizabeth, that she kind of admired the idea of Lady Catherine in abstract before she met the woman, that she runs her own estate. So there we have 6,000 words. This is now 256. If I go to my auto write, I can see here that it started at the 44. So that was 11 minutes, 12 minutes for 6 scenes. So not shabby at all. Let me go ahead and check the chat and see here. Okay, so hi, SA. Hello. Sorry I didn't get to talk a little bit earlier. First time catch a live. Love your process. The process is all over the place depending on what I'm doing. So let me go ahead and I'm not going to share my screen anymore. So we're good there. So let me just go ahead and put this. I will say that I always just like to tell you guys that Feature Fiction Academy is open for enrollment. We do keep it open. So if you want to join us in lab, we do all kinds of stuff. And we are working on fine tunes. We have a particular methodology that involves working with the artificial intelligence in our data sets and really being mindful of our data sets. So I just started teaching a class on Wednesdays about fine tunes as a project. So you can join and you're not behind. You can watch that class and catch up. We offer 8 labs per week, but we now have a core curriculum and everything like that. We have a course curriculum. I'll put a course curriculum guide, I should say. So it's really a kind of a cool place. Very great community, very AI positive, as we are all trying to figure out what does it mean to write with artificial intelligence, because this is the future. This is what we're all going to have to deal with. And as part of that, you do get access to Rexy, which was the software that I was using. It is proprietary to the FFA. That's because we don't trust amateurs with dinosaurs. No, it's actually a very powerful tool that you can sequence unlimited prompts. And before I put that in the hands of just anybody, I think that it's important that we're all working together and being good stewards of this great technology that we have at our fingertips. I expect to see prompt sequencing capabilities come to other AI tools on the market this year. You'll probably see it in some of these other titles that are available to everyone without a school or anything like that. We focus on education and innovation first. We just happen to have our own software too. We're not a software company. So I'm more interested in devising new ways to work with the AI, honestly, than I am in terms of like building a big software company. Where's Cynical Why Wolf? Your writing's okay at best. For me, AI is a ghostwriter. It basically is a more expensive grammar and spelling corrector and restyler. Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you, Secrets of Silver Clouds. I just saw that. That's really, really kind of you to say. Okay. 3 hours, man. But I was able to accomplish about 6,000 to 7,000 of rough draft. I have 7,000 words of the first 6 scenes in one format, 6,000 of them in another format when I put them together. Once I finish it up, I think those first 6 scenes are going to be about 10,000 words. I'll keep you posted. I'll be back at Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern, same channel, and we're going to still be working on this project. So I'm going to get through one project, and then I'll work on the next project. My next project will not be Jaff, but for starting off the new year, I wanted it to be my main genre on my main name. And yes, I will be publishing this book under Elizabeth Ann West, which I've done before already. A Test of Fire was artificial intelligence, and it made 5 figures in the first 30 days. A Test of Happy Was the Day and For Love of a Bennett, both also. Most of those were dictated, but I did also bring artificial intelligence in too. There's not as much AI writing in there as like what I'm doing now because, y'all, we were in DaVinci 3. Okay, this was 2021 into early 2022 that I was working with artificial intelligence for publishing those books. So my readers know, they don't care. I have some 1-star reviews from authors who are mad. They can be mad. You can get mad and glad in the same pants. You can get glad in the same pants you got mad in, whatever that saying is. My friend April Floyd says it all the time. But this year, 2024, I'm not hiding anymore. I'm going to publish. And if people want to attack my books, then woe be to them, because I will sick the Janeites on them and it won't be pretty. All right, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful writing weekend. We should have some video highlights coming up this weekend. There is 2 labs tomorrow for my Future Fiction Academy members. Tomorrow morning is Hyperparameters, and then 3 o'clock is with me, and it's on the Introduction to Writing with Creative Writing. So some of the techniques and stuff you saw me today, even more so tomorrow, we're going to really talk about the nitty-gritty of what's involved, the difference in prompting when you're working with creative fiction. Have a great writing weekend. I'll see you guys on Monday. Bye.